Hey fellow backyard warriors, Nick here. Today I'm going to show you how I built this 50-pound 1-inch PVC pipe bow. This is a fairly short bow, like 50 inches long, and it makes use of a reflex-deflex design loosely based off of Egyptian horn bows. It's got a very nice, almost triangular shape to it, and a very nice smooth draw. Today I'm going to be using a piece of 1-inch Schedule 40 PVC pipe. I'm going to cut it down to 50 inches long. Now I'm going to cut the pipe down to length. If you're using a PVC cutter to cut your pipe down to size, as you're cutting it, check to see if there's any cracking, especially when you finish the cut. If the pipe is brittle, it'll sometimes crack here, and that's a good indicator to skip this pipe and pick something that isn't going to crack like that. Most pipes, like the FormuFit pipe that I'm using, that have UV and impact resistance in them, tend not to crack. So I've marked the bow at the center. For this, it's at 25 inches, and then I've marked 2.5 inches out from either side to make the handle. And I've also gone and marked 4 inches from each one of the ends. So now I'm going to heat up one side of the bow, going all the way from the center of the handle all the way to the end and back until it is soft enough until I can press both of these walls together with finger pressure. Now I'm going to throw it into the flattening jig. Now I'm going to go ahead and taper it on the other side. This side. So you can see I've got a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch of gap on both sides. As long as it's even, it's fine. Now I'm going to heat the handle between these two marks until this entire section puffs back to round. And then we're going to shape this and bring the whole bow back to about 4 inches. That will set our deflex in the handle. We'll shape the handle so the arrows pass a little better, and we'll let that cool, work on the tips, and then we'll do the final shaping on the limbs. Alright, so now I pull everything back so that if I had the tips down, it'd be about a 4-inch gap between the tips and the surface that I put it on. And then squeeze the handle in the middle. I want it to be just about 1 inch wide, a little bit thicker, about 1 inch to 1.25 inches wide near the middle. While I'm doing this, I'm also sighting down the bow, making sure that everything lines up from tip through handle to the other tip. So here's what the handle looks like right now. The hand's going to sit right in here, and the bow is going to be drawn this way. So now we're going to be working on the recurved tips of the bow. I'm going to heat it up with a heat gun, and once this starts puffing out and it gets soft enough to move and shape, I'm going to press it down into this gap here. It's a 1-inch gap set between my flattening boards, and I've got this clamped to my work table here. And when you're heating up a pipe, especially on an end like this, you want to avoid the sides, at least at first, because these are under a lot of stress and tend to pull apart if they get too hot too quickly. So I like to heat up the flats until it starts to puff back out, and then work on the sides. So I've got this in here. As it's cooling, I'm just making sure to hold it so that everything lines up and is straight. And once this is cool, flip it over and heat up the other side. So here's the bow right now. Now we're going to heat it up and reflex or bend the limbs forward just a little bit till the tips almost line up with the front of the hand. It's not going to be an incredibly reflex bow, but it should be a nice stable shooter. So I'm going to heat between the handle mark and this end mark here, just in this section, and I don't want to heat it until it starts to puff up. I don't want to change this at all. So I'm just going to heat it a little bit at a time, give it a little bit of flex, and once it starts taking the flex, then we'll just shape it to where we want it and let it cool. That's looking much better. So now, starting about an inch in from the end, I'm going to start cutting one of my string knots. And I'm using a half-round carbide rasp. I've tied an overhand knot in a piece of paracord with a 4-inch long loop for the end. Got it on this side. Got the loose end, bring it up on this side, and I measure 4 inches from the very end. Bring it over, measure out a 4-inch loop, and then tie an overhand knot. So now that I've got the top loop done, I'll step through it, just bring it up. Alright, here it is. So the brace height is about 8 inches. And let's see. I'm trying to decide which side bends more than the other. Looks pretty balanced. It's pretty close. I'm going to say it's this side. Alright, there it is. Now we're going to test the drawaway. So we're at 54.4 pounds. So here's this tip after shaping. I went ahead and cleaned it up in here. And then I took a scouring pad to the whole bow just to remove any surface imperfections. I left the center mark so I know where the center is. So now I'm going to make a simple string. I've got some artificial sinew and about 8 strands of this will make a good string for this bow. So I'm going to measure out one length of the bow from knock to knock, and then add about 18 inches to it. Then I'm going to go ahead and pull out 8 of these strands. So now I've got 2 bundles of 4 strands, a total of 8 strands. I'm going to measure about 7 inches from the end and pull out about 6 inches to make the loop. I'm going to take 1 bundle on one side, 1 bundle on the other. I'm going to twist in one direction, just pick a direction. So this is, I believe, a counterclockwise twist. I'm going to twist this one counterclockwise as well. Then bring them together and twist them clockwise. About 2 twists, and a couple more twists counterclockwise, and then a couple of twists clockwise. And this gives a nice, tight, counter-twisted cordage right here. So I'm going to keep doing this until I've got the string loop made. Alright, so now that I've got my loop, I fold it over. It's about 3 inches long. So I'm going to split the bottom here Pull these two apart. Match one side up to one side, to the other. Now I'm going to twist, pull any of this out, straighten everything. I'm going to hold these two close together, and then I'm going to twist this bundle clockwise. Once it starts to want to fold on itself, do that to this in the same direction, so clockwise. About the same number of times, put them together. Make sure they're starting right next to each other at the top, and then let them unravel. So you want to twist counterclockwise. Now I keep twisting counterclockwise until everything holds tight. I'm going to do that to this side. Clockwise. Hold that. Clockwise. Bring it back. And counterclockwise. Okay. Alright, so now I'm just going to twist this and go for about an inch beyond the end of the splice. So now I'm going to put a counterclockwise twist in both of these bundles, going all the way back to the end. Alright, so here's the first loop finished. So now I'm going to take my string down to the opposite end. Now I'm going to measure 4 inches from, so now I'm going to measure 4 inches from the end. And this is where the top of my loop is going to be. So my loop's going to come back and be about 3 inches long. So right here is where I'm going to start making my loop. So it's pretty much the same as the other side. Counterclockwise, counterclockwise, clockwise. Alright, so now that I've come to the end, I match everything up, bring one side to one side, and make a gap in the middle. Try to keep these separate as I'm working. Now this side, I'm going to take about 5 inches or so, go clockwise, clockwise, counterclockwise, hold on to that, clockwise, clockwise, and then back together and counterclockwise. And then counterclockwise twist, and then a clockwise twist. Okay, match up the ends, and then put in these twists. Okay, now I split these two apart, and then I go from this side and just push. That helps resolve any of the twists, so that the string doesn't unravel itself. And I pull the string tight and give it a clockwise twist to lock everything together. And there it is. Right, so I've marked 1.5 inches away from the center on the side that bends a little more. That's going to be the top of the bow. I've cut a square Velcro pad in half, and one on each side will become an arrow rest. So you can put it on the left side for a right-handed shooter, shooting Mediterranean style, or on the right side for a left-handed shooter shooting Mediterranean style, or you can put it on both, and then the bow will be ambidextrous. I'm going to make sure that it is lined up with the string and the spot, and the arrow will go right there. So here's the handle all finished up. Here's the bow all finished up. I hope you enjoyed building this along with me today. If you like this, be sure to check out my channel for other videos like this, and I've also written several books on making PVC bows, and you can check out the link to those in the description below. So as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.